Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the telescope on his rooftop observatory. The small town of Cedar Falls rarely saw anything exciting, but tonight felt different. The meteor shower was supposed to peak around midnight, and Jake had been tracking unusual readings on his equipment for the past week. At exactly 11:47 p.m., a brilliant streak of light tore across the sky, far brighter than any meteor Jake had ever witnessed. Instead of burning up in the atmosphere like it should have, the object maintained its glow as it crashed into the forest just 3 miles outside town. The impact shook his house and triggered car alarms throughout the neighborhood. Jake grabbed his emergency kit and flashlight, his heart racing with excitement and curiosity. As an amateur astronomer and geology professor at the local community college, he had dreamed of finding a fresh meteorite his entire life. He jumped into his old pickup truck and drove toward the crash site, following the orange glow that still emanated from the forest. The crater was impossible to miss. Trees had been flattened in a perfect circle, and the air shimmered with residual heat. But as Jake approached the center, his scientific excitement turned to confusion. The object wasn't a typical meteorite at all. It was a smooth, crystalline pod about the size of a small car, pulsing with soft blue light from within. Jake circled the pod carefully, his flashlight beam dancing across its surface. The material looked like nothing he had ever seen, somewhere between glass and metal, with intricate patterns that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. Through the translucent walls, he could make out a shadowy figure inside. His hands trembled as he found what appeared to be a seam along the pod's surface. The moment his fingers touched it, the entire structure responded with a gentle hum. Sections of the pod began to dissolve like morning mist, revealing the impossible sight within. A young woman lay unconscious inside, her skin pale as moonlight and her long silver hair spread around her like liquid mercury. She appeared to be about 20 years old, breathtakingly beautiful and completely naked, but what made Jake's breath catch weren't her delicate features or the way the blue light seemed to emanate from her skin. It was the fact that she was floating 6 inches above the pod's floor, suspended in what looked like pure energy. Jake checked for a pulse at her wrist and was relieved to find a steady heartbeat, though her skin felt unusually cool to the touch. Her breathing was shallow but regular. Whatever she was, wherever she came from, she was alive and needed help. Without hesitation, Jake removed his jacket and carefully wrapped it around her. The moment the fabric touched her skin, her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that swirled with the same blue light as the pod. She looked directly at him, and Jake felt something shift in his mind, like a door opening that he never knew existed. She spoke, but not with her voice. The words formed directly in his thoughts, clear and melodic. "Thank you for finding me, Jake Martinez of Earth. I am Lyra of the Celestial Watch. My ship was damaged during an emergency landing, and I have been in stasis for longer than I intended." Jake stumbled backward, his rational mind struggling to process what was happening. "You're telepathic? And you know my name?" Lyra sat up slowly, Jake's jacket still wrapped around her shoulders. "I absorbed basic information about your language and culture from your thoughts when you touched the pod. I apologize for the intrusion, but it was necessary for communication. My people have been watching Earth for centuries, waiting for the right moment to make contact." The blue glow from her skin began to fade as she regained consciousness, but her beauty remained otherworldly. Jake found himself staring, then quickly looked away out of respect. "Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" "I am unharmed thanks to your kindness in finding me so quickly. However, my ship's emergency beacon will have alerted both my people and my enemies to this location. We do not have much time before they arrive." Jake helped her to her feet, noticing that she moved with an impossible grace, as if gravity affected her differently. "Enemies? What kind of enemies?" Lyra's expression darkened. "The Dominion Empire has been hunting my kind across the galaxy. They seek to capture us and use our abilities to enslave other worlds. I was carrying vital information about their plans to invade Earth when they intercepted my ship." The weight of her words hit Jake like a physical blow. Alien invasion wasn't something he had ever considered outside of science fiction movies. Earth is going to be invaded? Not if I can complete my mission. I was sent to establish contact with humanity and warn your leaders about the coming threat. But first I need to recover my strength and find a way to contact my people." Lyra looked around the crater, her eyes scanning the destroyed pod. "My ship's communication array is damaged beyond repair. Jake made a decision that would change his life forever. Then you'll come with me. I have equipment at the college that might help, and my house is safe. We can figure out what to do from there. Lyra smiled, and Jake felt warmth spread through his chest. You would help a stranger from another world without question? You're not a stranger, Jake said, surprising himself with his certainty. You're someone who needs help and you're trying to save my planet. That's enough for me. As they walked back toward his truck, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that his quiet life in Cedar Falls was about to become anything but quiet. But looking at the determined set of Lyra's shoulders and the way she moved with purpose despite her ordeal, he realized he wouldn't trade this moment for anything. The first chapter of their impossible journey had begun. Jake's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as they drove through the empty streets of Cedar Falls. Lyra sat beside him, now wearing an old college sweatshirt and jeans he kept in his truck for camping trips. Even in ordinary human clothes, she looked anything but ordinary. Her silver hair caught the streetlight in ways that defied physics, and her eyes still held traces of that otherworldly blue glow. Tell me about these Dominion forces, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. How much time do we have? Lyra closed her eyes and pressed her fingers to her temples. I can sense their approach. 3 ships heavily armed, still several hours away. They're tracking the residual energy signature from my pod's crash. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Jake, I need you to understand something. When they arrive, they won't just be looking for me. They'll see Earth as a potential conquest, and they'll start by eliminating any witnesses to my presence. The weight of responsibility settled on Jake's shoulders like a lead blanket. So everyone in town is in danger because of me finding you? Everyone in town is in danger because the Dominion was already planning to invade. Finding me here just accelerated their timeline. Lyra reached over and touched his arm. But you've also given Earth its first real chance to prepare. They pulled into Jake's driveway, a modest 2-story house with his rooftop observatory clearly visible against the star-filled sky. As they climbed the front steps, Lyra suddenly froze. Her head tilted like she was listening to something only she could hear. Someone's inside your house, she whispered urgently. Jake's blood ran cold. That's impossible. I live alone and all the doors are locked. Before he could react, the front door swung open, revealing a tall woman in a black suit. She had short red hair and cold green eyes that seemed to catalog every detail about them in seconds. 2 similarly dressed men flanked her, their hands resting casually on concealed weapons. Professor Martinez, the woman said with a smile that never reached her eyes. Agent Sarah Chen, Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. We need to talk. Jake blinked in confusion. Department of what? I've never heard of that agency. Most people haven't. We prefer it that way. Agent Chen's gaze shifted to Lyra, and her expression hardened. Miss, I'm going to need you to come with us for questioning. Lyra stepped slightly behind Jake, and he could feel tension radiating from her like heat. I'm not going anywhere until I know who you people are and what you want. We're the people who've been tracking unusual energy readings across 3 states tonight. We're the people who have been monitoring Professor Martinez's communications with amateur astronomer networks about unusual celestial phenomena, and we're the people who are going to protect this planet from threats like you. Jake felt anger flare in his chest. Threats like her? She's trying to warn us about an invasion. She's here to help. Agent Chen laughed, but it was a sound devoid of humor. Professor, you're a smart man, but you're being naive. Do you really think the first alien to crash land on Earth just happens to be a beautiful young woman who claims she's here to save us? It's the oldest trick in the book. I can prove what I'm telling you, Lyra said, stepping forward despite Jake's protective gesture. I can show you images of the Dominion fleet, their weapons, their battle plans, everything you need to prepare Earth's defenses. Oh, I'm sure you can show us all sorts of fascinating things, Agent Chen replied. The question is whether any of it will be true, or if it's all part of an elaborate deception designed to make us lower our guard. Jake looked back and forth between them, feeling like he was caught in the middle of a chess game where he didn't know the rules. Wait a minute. How did you even know to look for us? How did you know about the crash? Agent Chen's smile widened. Professor, did you really think you were the only person on Earth with equipment sensitive enough to detect extraterrestrial activity? We've been tracking your mysterious visitor since she entered our solar system 3 days ago. 3 days. Jake's mind raced. But the crash only happened tonight. The crash happened tonight. Her ship has been hiding behind the moon for 3 days. probably scanning our defenses and communications. Agent Chen gestured to her companions. Gentlemen, please escort our guest to the containment vehicle. The two men moved forward, but Lyra raised her hand and they suddenly stopped mid-step, their eyes wide with confusion. A soft blue glow emanated from her palm, and Jake felt the air itself seem to thicken around them. I will not be taken prisoner when Earth's survival depends on my mission, Lyra said, her voice carrying an authority that made everyone in the room step back involuntarily. Agent Chen, your suspicions are understandable, but they are also dangerous. While we waste time with distrust, the Dominion fleet draws closer. Agent Chen's hand moved toward her weapon, but she found her arm wouldn't obey her commands. What are you doing to us? Preventing unnecessary violence. I'm not controlling your minds, merely slowing your movements to give us time to talk. Lyra turned to Jake. There's something else you need to know. Agent Chen is right about one thing. I'm not the first of my people to visit Earth. Jake felt his world shift again. What do you mean? My people, the Celestial Watch, have been secretly working with a small group of humans for decades, preparing for the day when the Dominion would discover Earth. Agent Chen's department exists because of that collaboration. Agent Chen's eyes widened in shock. That's impossible. Our department was founded after we detected alien technology in the Roswell incident. We've been working alone ever since. Lyra shook her head sadly. Your department was founded because my predecessor made contact with your government 70 years ago. Some of your most advanced defensive technologies came from Celestial Watch designs. Agent Chen, check your secure communications. You should have received new orders within the last hour. Agent Chen's expression went from suspicion to confusion to something approaching fear. She spoke into her earpiece, listened intently, then looked at Lyra with new respect. Command confirms. We've just received intelligence about an incoming alien threat and orders to provide full cooperation to... She paused. To the Celestial Watch operative. The blue glow around Lyra's hand faded and the men found they could move again. I take no pleasure in keeping secrets, but the situation required it. Now, Agent Chen, I need you to contact your superiors immediately. Earth has less than 6 hours to prepare for the most important battle in your planet's history. Jake sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the rapid revelations. So there's already been contact. The government knows about aliens. A small part of the government knows, Agent Chen corrected, her professional demeanor returning. And we've been preparing, but not for something on this scale. She looked at Lyra. How many ships are we talking about? Lyra's expression grew grim. The advanced scouts will arrive first. 3 ships, as I mentioned, but if they succeed in their mission to secure a beachhead, the main fleet will follow. 200 vessels, each capable of leveling a major city. The room fell silent as the magnitude of the threat sank in. Jake realized that his quiet life as a small-town professor had just become the center of humanity's greatest challenge. And somehow the beautiful alien woman beside him represented their only hope of survival. The basement of Jake's house had been transformed into a makeshift command center within an hour of Agent Chen's phone call. Military personnel in unmarked uniforms worked alongside technicians, setting up sophisticated equipment that definitely hadn't existed in any textbook Jake had ever read. The technology looked decades ahead of anything he thought was possible. Lyra stood at the center of it all, her hand placed on a crystalline device that pulsed with the same blue light as her pod. Holographic displays showed star charts and tactical information that made Jake's head spin. Despite the chaos around them, she maintained an air of calm competence that seemed to steady everyone in the room. The Dominion scouts will emerge from hyperspace in approximately 4 hours, Lyra announced to the assembled team. They'll appear here, here, and here. 3 red dots appeared on a holographic map of Earth, positioned above major population centers. Their first priority will be to establish communication jammers and disable your military satellites. General Morrison, a stern-faced man who had arrived with the military team, studied the display with growing concern. Our orbital defenses weren't designed to handle threats of this magnitude. What kind of weapons are we dealing with? Lyra waved her hand and the hologram shifted to show sleek, predatory-looking ships. Dominion vessels use plasma cannons capable of melting through several feet of steel, energy shields that can deflect most projectile weapons, and teleportation technology that allows them to deploy troops directly onto planetary surfaces. Jake watched from the corner, feeling useless among all the military experts and advanced technology. This is hopeless. How is Earth supposed to fight something like that? Earth isn't as defenseless as you think, Agent Chen said, approaching him with a tablet displaying technical specifications. The technology we've developed over the past 70 years isn't entirely human in origin. We've been preparing for this day, even if we didn't know exactly when it would come. She showed him images of sleek fighter craft and defensive systems that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. These are our Aegis interceptors, powered by reverse-engineered Celestial Watch energy cells. We have 50 of them stationed at hidden bases around the world. Lyra looked up from her console, a mixture of pride and sadness in her expression. My people have been helping humanity develop these defenses, but we've had to be careful. Too much technological advancement too quickly would have destabilized your society. General Morrison cleared his throat. What about the larger fleet you mentioned? 200 ships seems like more than we can handle even with these new weapons. The main fleet won't arrive immediately, Lyra explained. Dominion tactics rely on their scouts establishing a secure foothold first. If we can defeat the advance force and capture their communication equipment, we can send a false report back to the fleet, buying ourselves months or even years to prepare. Jake stepped closer to the holographic display, studying the tactical information. What exactly is your role in all this, Lyra? You said you were carrying vital information about their plans. Lyra hesitated, and Jake noticed several of the military personnel exchange glances. There was something she hadn't told them yet. I am not just a messenger, she said finally. I am the daughter of the Celestial Watch's High Commander, and I carry within my genetic memory the complete tactical database of both Celestial Watch and Dominion forces. I am essentially a living library of everything Earth needs to know to defend itself. The room fell silent. Agent Chen was the first to speak. Your royalty? And you came here yourself instead of sending someone else? My father didn't send me. I volunteered for this mission against his direct orders. Lyra's voice carried a note of defiance. The Celestial Watch Council wanted to maintain their policy of minimal interference, but I believed humanity deserved a real chance to survive. Jake felt a new respect for the young woman who had literally fallen from the sky into his life. You risked everything to warn us. I risked more than you know, Lyra said softly. By coming here, by sharing our tactical database with humanity, I've committed an act of treason against my own people. If the Celestial Watch finds me, I'll face exile or worse. General Morrison leaned forward. Are you saying your own people might be our enemies too? No, but they believe in non-interference policies that have led to the destruction of dozens of other worlds. They would rather preserve their principles than save innocent lives. Lyra's eyes flashed with anger. I've seen what the Dominion does to conquered planets. I've watched entire civilizations reduced to slavery. I couldn't let that happen to Earth without at least giving you a fighting chance. Jake understood now why she had seemed so determined when he first found her. She wasn't just an alien warning Earth about an invasion. She was a rebel princess who had sacrificed everything to save a world she barely knew. There's something else, Lyra continued, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. The reason the Dominion has targeted Earth specifically. It's not just because you're a developing species that would be easy to conquer. Agent Chen stepped closer. What do you mean? Earth sits at a crucial hyperspace junction that would give the Dominion access to 12 other star systems, including the Celestial Watch homeworlds. If they establish a permanent base here, they'll have a strategic advantage that could tip the balance of power in the entire galaxy. The weight of this revelation settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Jake realized that Earth wasn't just fighting for its own survival, but for the survival of countless other worlds. So if we lose, General Morrison said grimly, it's not just humanity that suffers. If you lose, the Dominion becomes unstoppable, Lyra confirmed. But if you win, if you can prove that a young species can successfully defend itself against Dominion forces, it will inspire resistance movements across the galaxy. Earth could become the spark that ignites a galactic rebellion. Jake looked around the room at the faces of the people who would be defending his planet in just a few hours. They were scared, but they were also determined. And in the center of it all stood Lyra, the alien princess who had given up everything to give them this chance. What do you need from us? Jake asked. How can we help you save Earth? Lyra smiled, and for the first time since he'd found her, it reached her eyes. I need you to trust me, and I need you to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of when you're fighting for something you love. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring throughout the basement. On the main display, 3 new contacts appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. The Dominion scouts had arrived. The Aegis interceptors launched from hidden bases across the globe, just as the Dominion scouts entered Earth's atmosphere. Jake watched the tactical display in fascination and terror, as 50 human fighters rose to meet 3 alien warships, each the size of a city block. Aegis squadron leaders. "This is Command," Agent Chen spoke into her headset. "Remember, we need at least 1 ship intact. The communication equipment is our priority." Through the basement speakers, they could hear the pilots' responses crackling with static and determination. "Roger that, Command." Aegis 1 beginning attack run on target Alpha. Lyra stood beside the main console, her eyes closed in concentration. Streams of data flowed across her face like living tattoos as she accessed her genetic memory banks. The lead ship is a Dominion Reaper-class destroyer. Its shields will be strongest at the front and weakest near the engine ports. "Aegis squadrons, you heard the lady," General Morrison announced. "Focus your attacks on the rear sections." The first engagement was nothing like Jake had expected. The human fighters moved with impossible grace, their energy weapons carving bright lines across the night sky. But the Dominion ships were equally impressive, their plasma cannons turning patches of atmosphere into brilliant explosions of superheated gas. "Aegis 7 is hit," came a voice over the radio. "Shields down to 30%. I'm breaking off." "Negative, Aegis 7, replied another pilot. "Stay in formation. We've got your 6. Jake watched one of the Dominion ships suddenly list to one side, trailing green fire from its engine section. Did we hit something important? Lyra opened her eyes and Jake could see the tactical information still flowing behind her irises. "The ship's primary power coupling is damaged. They're running on backup systems." She turned to Agent Chen. "Now would be the time to deploy the electromagnetic pulse weapons." Agent Chen nodded and spoke into her headset. "Operation Lightning Rod is a go." "Repeat, Lightning Rod is a go." On the display, Jake watched as 3 points of light rose from different locations around the globe. They weren't visible to the naked eye, but the sensors showed them as they streaked toward the damaged Dominion ship. "EMP torpedoes away," came the confirmation. "Impact in 10 seconds. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The damaged Dominion ship's lights flickered and died as the electromagnetic pulse overwhelmed its systems. Without power to its anti-grav generators, the massive vessel began falling toward Earth like a wounded bird. "Aegis squadrons, clear the area," General Morrison ordered. "Let it come down in the ocean where we can recover it." But the other 2 Dominion ships weren't finished. They moved to bracket the falling vessel, their weapons charging with an ominous purple glow that Jake could see even from the basement. "They're going to destroy their own ship rather than let us capture it," Lyra said urgently. "We can't let that happen. We need their communication array." Agent Chen was already speaking into her headset. "Aegis 12, Aegis 15, intercept those ships, whatever it takes." Jake watched in amazement as 2 human fighters broke formation and dove directly at the Dominion vessels, their energy weapons blazing. It was a suicide run and everyone in the basement knew it. "This is Aegis 12, came a calm voice over the radio. "Tell my family I love them." "This is Aegis 15. It's been an honor flying with you all." The 2 fighters slammed into the Dominion ships just as they fired their weapons. The explosions lit up the night sky like miniature stars, and when the light faded, all 4 vessels were gone. The basement fell silent except for the soft hum of electronics. Jake realized he was holding his breath and he wasn't the only one. "Command, this is Aegis 1, came a voice finally. "Target Alpha is down in the Pacific, approximately 200 miles west of California. She's sinking, but the hull appears intact. Recovery teams are already en route," Agent Chen confirmed. "Good work, Aegis Squadron. Return to base." General Morrison turned to address the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure what we just witnessed, but I know one thing. Humanity just won its first battle against an alien invasion force." A cheer went up from the military personnel, but Jake noticed that Lyra didn't look entirely pleased. "What's wrong?" he asked her quietly. "The battle was almost too easy," she said, her brow furrowed with concern. "Dominion scouts are usually much more cautious. They should have stayed in orbit and bombarded the planet from a safe distance." Agent Chen overheard. "Are you saying this was some kind of trap?" "I'm saying that Dominion tactical doctrine doesn't usually include direct atmospheric engagement unless they're confident of victory." Lyra moved to the main console and began accessing new data streams. Unless they were buying time for something else. The main display suddenly filled with new contacts, dozens of them, appearing at the edge of the solar system. Jake's heart sank as he realized what he was looking at. "That's not the main fleet," Lyra said, her voice tight with worry. "That's a Dominion siege armada. 200 ships just as I predicted, but they're arriving 6 months ahead of schedule." General Morrison stared at the display in disbelief. "How is that possible?" "The scouts weren't here to establish a beachhead," Lyra realized, her face pale with understanding. "They were here to activate a hyperspace beacon hidden somewhere on Earth. That's why they engaged our fighters in atmosphere instead of staying safely in orbit. They needed to get close enough to the planet to find and activate the beacon." Jake felt his stomach drop. "So even though we won the battle, we lost the war?" "Not yet," Agent Chen said firmly. "We have the communication equipment from the downed ship. Maybe we can use it to send a false message to the fleet." Lyra shook her head. "It won't work. They'll know their scouts failed the moment the beacon stops transmitting. We have perhaps 6 hours before the siege armada reaches Earth orbit." The room erupted in urgent conversations as military personnel began calculating impossible odds and discussing evacuation procedures, but Jake found himself staring at Lyra, who stood in the center of the chaos with an expression of grim determination. "There's another option," she said suddenly, her voice cutting through the noise. "It's dangerous, and it requires me to do something I swore I would never do." Everyone stopped talking and looked at her. General Morrison spoke for all of them. "What kind of option?" Lyra closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "I can contact my father and the Celestial Watch fleet. They're only 3 days away, close enough to reach Earth before the Dominion siege armada. But doing so will confirm my treason, and it will mean revealing Earth's location to both sides of a galactic war." Jake stepped forward. "What are you really saying, Lyra?" She opened her eyes and looked directly at him. "I'm saying that to save Earth, I'm going to have to turn it into the most important battlefield in galactic history. And I have no idea if humanity is ready for what that means." The weight of the decision hung in the air like a thundercloud. Jake realized that the next few hours would determine not just Earth's fate, but the fate of every inhabited world in the galaxy. The decision to contact the Celestial Watch wasn't made lightly. For 2 hours, the basement command center buzzed with heated debates between military strategists, government officials who had arrived via secure video link, and alien technology experts. Through it all, Lyra remained silent, her expression growing more troubled with each passing minute. Jake finally approached her during a break in the discussions. "You're having second thoughts about calling your father, aren't you?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Once I make contact, there's no going back. The Celestial Watch will learn that I've shared their tactical database with humanity. My father will have no choice but to arrest me, even though I'm his daughter. But Earth will be saved. Earth will become the center of a war that could last centuries," Lyra corrected. "Is that really saving it?" Before Jake could respond, Agent Chen called for everyone's attention. "We finished analyzing the communication equipment from the downed Dominion ship. The good news is that we can use it to contact the Celestial Watch. The bad news is that doing so will also alert every Dominion ship within 50 light years to Earth's exact location." General Morrison studied the tactical display, showing the approaching siege armada. "How long do we have to make this decision?" 4 hours until the Dominion fleet reaches weapons range," came the reply from a technician monitoring long-range sensors. "After that, it won't matter who we call. Earth's major cities will be craters." Jake watched as the weight of billions of lives settled on Lyra's shoulders. She was 20 years old, an alien princess who had already sacrificed everything to warn Earth about the invasion. Now she was being asked to sacrifice even more. "I'll do it," she said quietly. "I'll contact the Celestial Watch fleet." "Wait," Jake said suddenly, an idea forming in his mind. "What if there's another way? What if we don't just call for help? What if we make Earth so valuable to the Celestial Watch that they have to protect it?" Agent Chen frowned. "What do you mean?" Jake moved to the main console, his professor instincts taking over. "Lyra, you said Earth sits at a crucial hyperspace junction. That makes it strategically important. But what if we could make it technologically important too?" Lyra's eyes widened as she understood where he was going. "You want to share human technology with the Celestial Watch?" "Think about it," Jake continued, his excitement growing. "Your people have advanced technology, but they've also been fighting a losing war against the Dominion for centuries. What if humanity has something they need? General Morrison looked skeptical. What could we possibly offer to an advanced alien civilization? Lyra was already accessing her genetic memory banks, streams of data flowing across her features. Human tactical creativity, she said after a moment. Human adaptability, human stubbornness. Agent Chen raised an eyebrow. Stubbornness? Every species the Celestial Watch has encountered follows predictable patterns of behavior. They react to threats in logical, calculated ways. But humans, Lyra smiled for the first time in hours. Humans do things like flying suicide missions to protect a single communication array. Humans take impossible risks for the smallest chance of victory. Humans fight wars they can't win and somehow find a way to win them anyway. Jake felt a surge of pride mixed with understanding. You're saying that humanity's chaotic, illogical approach to warfare might be exactly what the Celestial Watch needs to defeat the Dominion. I'm saying that in my genetic memory banks, there's no record of any species ever voluntarily sacrificing individual ships to protect a larger strategic objective, the way your pilots did tonight. That kind of tactical thinking could revolutionize how the Celestial Watch approaches warfare. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated the implications. Finally, General Morrison spoke up. So instead of just asking for help, we're proposing an alliance. Earth provides tactical innovation, and the Celestial Watch provides advanced technology and military support. It's more than that, Lyra said, her voice gaining strength. We're proposing that Earth become the new command center for the resistance against the Dominion. A place where multiple species can work together to develop new strategies and technologies. Agent Chen nodded slowly. It's ambitious, but it's also the kind of proposal that might make the Celestial Watch Council overlook your treason charges. Maybe, Lyra said, but first we have to survive the next 4 hours. She moved to the communication console and began interfacing with the captured Dominion equipment. The device responded to her touch, its alien surfaces reconfiguring themselves into something resembling a control panel. I'm establishing a connection to the Celestial Watch flagship, she announced. This transmission will be detected by every military sensor within 100 light-years, so we need to make it count. The main display flickered and then showed a three-dimensional image of a tall, imposing figure in flowing robes. His features were similar to Lyra's, but more angular, and his eyes held the weight of centuries of command decisions. Lyra, the figure said, his voice carrying both relief and disappointment. You are safe, but you are also in violation of direct orders from the Celestial Watch Council. Father, Lyra replied formally, I know the consequences of my actions. But before you pass judgment, I ask that you hear what the humans have to propose. The figure's gaze shifted to take in the room full of human personnel. You would have aliens speak for your defense? I would have allies speak for our mutual survival, Lyra corrected. Father, meet Professor Jake Martinez, the human who found me and chose to help despite the danger, and General Morrison, who commands Earth's defensive forces. Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding but his voice steady. Commander, your daughter has shown us that the universe is much larger and more dangerous than we ever imagined. But she's also shown us that we don't have to face that danger alone. Humans of Earth, the commander said, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed across star systems. My daughter has committed treason by sharing Celestial Watch tactical data with your species. The penalty for such an action is exile from our people forever. Then maybe, General Morrison interjected, it's time for the Celestial Watch to expand their definition of our people, to include allies who are willing to fight alongside you. The commander's expression didn't change, but Jake caught a flicker of something that might have been surprise in his eyes. You offer alliance to a species you have never met? Your daughter risked everything to save our world, Jake replied. That makes her one of us. And if she's one of us, then so are you. For a long moment, the transmission was silent except for the hum of alien technology. Then the commander spoke again, his voice softer than before. The Dominion Siege Armada will reach your planet in 3 hours and 17 minutes. The Celestial Watch fleet will require 6 hours to reach Earth orbit. Even if I order our ships to maximum speed, we will arrive too late to prevent significant casualties. Jake felt his heart sink, but Lyra stepped forward with renewed determination. Then we'll have to hold them off until you arrive, she said simply. Earth's defenders and I together. Lyra, her father said quietly, You cannot possibly hope to stand against 200 Dominion warships. Watch us, Jake said, surprising himself with his confidence. Humanity has a long history of doing impossible things when someone we care about is in danger. The commander studied Jake's face for a long moment, then looked at his daughter. Very well. The Celestial Watch Fleet will come to Earth's aid, but understand that by doing so, we are committing to a course of action that will change the balance of power in this galaxy forever. Some changes are worth fighting for, Lyra replied. The transmission ended, leaving the basement command center in expectant silence. Outside, Jake could hear the distant rumble of more Aegis interceptors launching from hidden bases around the world. Earth was about to face the greatest test in human history, and somehow Jake realized they might actually have a chance of winning. The Dominion siege armada emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metallic locusts, their ships blotting out entire constellations as they took position around Earth. 200 vessels, each bristling with weapons capable of reducing continents to ash, hung in the void like harbingers of humanity's extinction. In the basement command center, Jake watched the tactical display with a mixture of awe and terror. The numbers were impossible. Earth's entire defensive fleet consisted of 47 remaining Aegis interceptors, 3 experimental orbital platforms, and whatever surprises Agent Chen's department had been keeping secret for the past 70 years. Orbital. Platforms Bravo and Charlie are reporting full power, came a voice over the communications array. Platform Alpha took damage during the scout engagement, but is operational at 60% capacity. Lyra stood at the center of the chaos, her hand pressed against the Celestial Watch interface device. Her eyes were closed and streams of tactical data flowed across her skin like living circuits. The siege ships are moving into standard Dominion bombardment formation, she announced. They'll target major population centers first to break human morale, then systematically destroy military installations. General Morrison studied the deployment patterns on the main screen.
How long do we have before they open fire?
12 minutes, Lyra replied without opening her eyes. They're charging their plasma cannons now. Agent Chen activated her secure communication channel. All units, this is command. Operation Deliverance is now active. I repeat, Operation Deliverance is active. Jake had never heard of Operation Deliverance, but he watched in amazement as new contacts appeared on the tactical display. Dozens of them, rising from hidden locations across Earth's surface and emerging from concealment behind the moon and in asteroid fields. What am I looking at? He asked Agent Chen. 70 years of preparation, she replied grimly. We've been building these defensive platforms in secret, using technology provided by earlier Celestial Watch contacts. They're not enough to win the battle, but they might buy us enough time for the cavalry to arrive. The hidden platforms were unlike anything Jake had seen in the public military. Sleek, angular vessels that looked more like sculptures than warships. They moved with an alien grace that reminded him of Lyra herself. Opening fire, came the call from the lead platform. Lines of pure energy lanced out from Earth's defenders, striking the Dominion ships with pinpoint accuracy. Several of the smaller vessels immediately lost power and began drifting, but the larger siege ships simply absorbed the hits on their energy shields. Direct hits on 17 targets, reported a technician. Minimal damage to enemy shields. The Dominion response was immediate and devastating. Plasma cannons that could have powered entire cities unleashed their fury on Earth's defenders. 3 of the hidden platforms simply vanished in balls of superheated gas, while others limped away trailing debris and energy discharges. Platform 7 is destroyed, came a calm voice over the radio. Platform 14 has lost main power. We're switching to backup systems. Jake watched the battle unfold with growing despair. For every Dominion ship that took damage, Earth lost 2 or 3 defenders. At this rate, the planet's defenses would be overwhelmed within an hour. Lyra, he said urgently, isn't there anything else we can do? Some weapon or strategy we haven't tried? Lyra opened her eyes and Jake could see the same desperation he felt reflected in her expression. There is one thing, but it's incredibly dangerous, and it requires me to do something that could kill me. What are you talking about? Instead of answering, Lyra moved to the main console and began interfacing directly with the Celestial Watch device. But this time, instead of just accessing tactical data, she seemed to be merging with the system itself. Lyra, what are you doing? Agent Chen demanded. I'm going to use my genetic connection to the Celestial Watch Command Network to take direct control of Earth's defensive systems, Lyra explained, her voice already taking on a distant quality. I can coordinate the defense with perfect efficiency, but the neural feedback from controlling so many systems simultaneously could kill you, Jake finished, his blood running cold. It's the only way to give Earth's defenders a real chance against these odds, Lyra said. Jake, if I don't survive this, I need you to tell my father that I regret nothing. Every choice I made was worth it if it saves your world. Before Jake could protest, Lyra pressed her palm flat against the control surface. Light exploded through the basement as every piece of Celestial Watch technology in the room responded to her presence. The tactical displays shifted and flowed like living things, showing battlefield information with incredible detail and clarity. Through the communication channels, Jake could hear the change immediately. Where before there had been chaos and confusion, now Earth's defenders moved with perfect coordination. All units. This is your new tactical coordinator, came Lyra's voice, but it now carried an otherworldly quality that seemed to speak directly to the mind. Platform 15. Adjust your targeting parameters by 3 degrees and fire on my mark. Aegis Squadron 7 and 9. Break formation and execute attack pattern Omega 7. The effect on the battle was immediate and dramatic. Earth's defenders, now moving as a single coordinated force, began inflicting real damage on the Dominion fleet. Ships that had seemed invulnerable moments before found their shields overwhelmed by precisely targeted concentrated fire. But Jake could see the cost. Lyra's skin had taken on an unhealthy pallor, and energy discharges sparked across her body as the neural feedback from controlling dozens of weapon systems simultaneously began to take its toll. Dominion flagship is moving to engage Platform Bravo, Lyra announced, her voice strained but still carrying that supernatural clarity. All available units converge on coordinates 77 Alpha. We need to protect the orbital platforms at all costs. Jake watched in amazement as 30 Aegis interceptors and 5 hidden platforms moved in perfect formation to intercept the massive Dominion command ship. Their coordinated attack was like a deadly dance, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be and what they would do. The Dominion flagship's shields flared and failed under the sustained assault. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull as its own weapons began detonating in chain reactions. Flagship is withdrawing, announced a jubilant voice over the radio. Repeat. The Dominion flagship is withdrawing from engagement. But the victory came at a terrible price. Lyra collapsed to her knees, blood trickling from her nose as the strain of coordinating the defense pushed her beyond her limits. Lyra, Jake caught her as she fell, feeling the unnatural heat radiating from her skin. You have to stop. You're killing yourself. Can't stop, she whispered, her eyes still glowing with the blue light of the interface connection. Dominion fleet is regrouping. They're bringing up their heavy siege platforms. If I break the connection now, Earth's defenses will collapse. Jake looked at the tactical display and saw she was right. The Dominion ships were indeed regrouping, bringing forward massive vessels that dwarfed even their flagship. These weren't just warships. They were planet killers designed to crack worlds open from orbit. How long until the Celestial Watch fleet arrives? He asked desperately. 47 minutes, Agent Chen replied, her voice tight with worry. But at this rate, Lyra won't survive another 10 minutes of neural feedback. Jake made a decision that surprised even himself. He placed his hand over Lyra's on the control interface. Then she won't do it alone, he said firmly. The moment his skin touched the alien technology, Jake felt his mind explode with information. Tactical data, weapon trajectories, shield frequencies, and the positions of hundreds of ships flooded his consciousness. It should have been overwhelming, but somehow, with Lyra's presence guiding him, it all made sense. Jake, what are you doing? Lyra asked, her voice filled with wonder and concern. Sharing the load, he replied, feeling the strain on Lyra's system ease as his own mind began processing part of the defensive coordination. You said humanity brings something unique to this fight. Maybe it's our willingness to do impossible things when someone we care about needs help. Together, human and alien, they guided Earth's desperate defense against overwhelming odds. And for the first time since the siege began, Jake began to believe they might actually survive until help arrived. The Celestial Watch fleet emerged from hyperspace like angels descending from heaven, their crystalline ships catching and refracting starlight into brilliant rainbows across the void. Jake felt Lyra's relief through their shared connection as her father's flagship took position between Earth and the Dominion Siege Armada. "This is Commander Altair of the Celestial Watch," came the transmission that filled every communication channel in the solar system. "Dominion forces, you are in violation of the Galactic Accords by attacking a protected world. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Dominion response was predictable. Their massive siege platforms turned their planet-killing weapons toward the Celestial Watch fleet, while their smaller ships moved to bracket the new arrivals. But the battle that followed wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of the traditional long-range engagement that characterized most space warfare, Earth's defenders did something unprecedented. They coordinated with the Celestial Watch ships to execute complex tactical maneuvers that no single species had ever attempted. Through his connection to the tactical network, Jake watched Aegis interceptors use Celestial Watch vessels as shields, while they closed distance with Dominion ships. He saw orbital platforms coordinate their fire with alien energy weapons to create devastating crossfire patterns. Most importantly, he witnessed the birth of a new kind of warfare where multiple species fought as a single, unified force. "Dominion Siege Platform Omega is charging its primary weapon," Lyra announced, her voice now harmonizing with Jake's thoughts as they shared the burden of coordination. "Target appears to be the population center designated New York City. Celestial Watch vessel Starlight. You're in position to intercept," Jake found himself saying, the tactical solution appearing in his mind as clearly as if he'd been planning space battles his entire life. Aegis Squadrons 12 and 15 provide escort support. The intercept was flawless. The Celestial Watch ship's energy shields absorbed the siege platform's blast, while human fighters swarmed the massive Dominion vessel, their energy weapons finding weak points that Lyra's genetic memory had identified. But it was what happened next that changed everything. "Dominion Fleet," came a new voice over the communications array. It belonged to Captain Sarah Wu of Aegis Squadron 3, a fighter pilot from Taiwan who had never spoken to an alien before today. "This is Earth calling. You came here expecting to find a helpless world full of primitive beings. What you found instead was a planet full of people willing to die for each other, working alongside allies who crossed the galaxy to help us. That's not weakness. That's strength." Other voices joined in from across Earth's defensive network. Pilots from every continent, technicians from hidden bases, even civilians who had taken shelter in underground bunkers but refused to stay silent. "This is Moscow Station," called a Russian engineer. "We stand with our allies." London Defense Platform reporting, added a British commander. "Earth stands united with the Celestial Watch." Sydney Orbital speaking, came an Australian voice. "No one threatens our world and our friends." Jake felt tears streaming down his face as he realized what was happening. This wasn't just a military alliance anymore. It was proof that when faced with extinction, humanity would choose to stand together with anyone willing to fight alongside them. The effect on the Dominion fleet was immediate and visible. Ships that had been advancing suddenly hesitated. Some of the smaller vessels actually began withdrawing from the battle line. "Dominion forces," Commander Altair's voice cut through the chaos. "You have witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. A young species willingly allying with established civilizations not out of fear or desperation, but out of mutual respect and shared values. Humanity has chosen to stand with the Celestial Watch, and we have chosen to stand with them." The largest Dominion siege platform suddenly changed course, moving away from Earth toward the edge of the solar system. Others began following suit, their retreat becoming a rout as the psychological impact of the unified defense shattered their confidence. "This is Dominion Fleet Commander Zerath," came a harsh voice over the communication channels. "The Celestial Watch may have found new allies today, but this war is far from over. The Dominion will return with forces that dwarf today's fleet. When you do," Jake found himself responding, the words flowing through him from the collective consciousness of Earth's defenders, "you'll find us ready. And you'll find we're not alone." As the last Dominion ship vanished into hyperspace, Jake and Lyra finally disconnected from the tactical network. He caught her as she collapsed, both of them physically and mentally exhausted from the sustained connection. "Is it over?" Jake asked, looking around the basement command center where technicians and military personnel were cheering and embracing each other. "This battle is over," Lyra replied, her voice hoarse but filled with hope. But Commander Zerath was right about one thing. This war is just beginning. Agent Chen approached them with a smile wider than Jake had ever seen on her normally serious face. The president wants to speak with both of you. Apparently, there's going to be a formal ceremony to establish the Earth Celestial Watch Alliance. 3 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of Olympus Station, humanity's first joint orbital facility built with Celestial Watch technology. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see construction crews from a dozen different species working together to build defensive platforms that would protect not just Earth, but serve as a template for other worlds joining the growing alliance. Lyra appeared beside him, no longer wearing human clothes but dressed in the formal robes of a Celestial Watch diplomatic attaché. The charges of treason against her had been dropped when the Council voted unanimously to appoint her as the first ambassador to the human alliance. Any regrets? Jake asked, watching a human engineer help a Celestial Watch technician install a new type of energy shield that neither species could have developed alone. About crash landing on your planet in a meteorite pod. About changing the course of galactic history. About falling in love with a geology professor from a small town in Colorado. Lyra smiled and took his hand. Not a single one. Jake laughed, remembering the night 3 months ago when he had thought the bright streak across the sky was just another meteorite. Now Earth was the headquarters of an interstellar alliance. Humanity had become a spacefaring species practically overnight, and the woman he loved was quite literally from another world. Although, Lyra added with a mischievous grin, I do think we should work on your aim the next time we coordinate a space battle together. You nearly shot down 3 of our own ships during the Proxima Centauri engagement last week. Hey, that was tactical innovation, Jake protested. Sometimes you have to take calculated risks to achieve victory. Spoken like a true human, Lyra laughed. No wonder the Dominion keeps losing battles. They have no idea how to fight opponents who treat impossible odds as a personal challenge. Through the station's communication system, they heard the announcement they'd been waiting for. Attention Olympus Station. The exploration ship Harmony is departing for the Kepler system. Mission objective, first contact with the Zephyrian Republic. Estimated duration 6 months. Jake squeezed Lyra's hand. The Harmony was a joint human celestial watch vessel, the first of its kind designed specifically for peaceful exploration and diplomacy. Its crew consisted of volunteers from both species, ready to carry the message of the new alliance to other worlds. Think they'll find anyone out there willing to join us? Jake asked. Lyra's eyes sparkled with the same otherworldly light he'd first seen in the crater 3 months ago. Jake, what we've built here isn't just an alliance between 2 species. It's proof that the universe doesn't have to be ruled by empires that conquer and dominate. We've shown that different peoples can work together as equals, sharing knowledge and protecting each other. She gestured toward the viewport, where Earth hung like a blue jewel against the star-filled darkness. Every world that joins us makes the alliance stronger. Every species that chooses cooperation over conquest makes the galaxy a little more peaceful. Jake nodded, thinking about how much his life had changed since that night when he thought he was just observing a meteor shower. Now he was part of something larger than he had ever imagined possible. Besides, Lyra added with a smile, humanity has already taught the galaxy something important. When someone you care about is in danger, you don't calculate the odds, you just fight. As they watched the Harmony disappear into hyperspace, carrying humanity's message of alliance and hope to distant stars, Jake realized that the real story was just beginning. Earth had survived its first contact with a galactic empire, formed an alliance with an advanced alien civilization, and proven that a young species could hold its own among the stars. But most importantly, humanity had shown the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful weapon in the universe isn't a plasma cannon or an energy shield. Sometimes it's simply the willingness to stand up for someone else even when the odds seem impossible.